Steve, you're back from Nashville. How was it?
It's always good.
That's not
It's always
wonderful. It
good.
wasn't wonderful.
I know because you're going to ask me how I'm feeling about the podcast. I'm going to say the podcast is wonderful. Nashville was very good.
I knew you were going to say you were feeling wonderful. I thoroughly enjoy when Steve goes to Nashville. It's quite honestly one of my favorite times of the year because we get this slight unfilteredness from Steve. There's a constant stream of text to me and Russ.
Or at least I can update you. You don't tell me not to text you.
And
My
apparently,
daughter's telling me
yeah,
to put the phone down.
that might be this week's okay related to this week's okay young guy.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
I'll pray for that.
The name of this wonderful podcast, or that's always doing wonderful, is Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve. We have a guest today, and it was a great conversation. It was a wonderful conversation. Penn State senior Cailey Thalman. She is producing and creating content for the athletic department. She's been doing sideline reporting for Big Ten Plus. She's been doing a fantastic job, and it was a great conversation with her to kind of talk about the student aspect of handling all of this right now and handling how she manages all of that. That was a great conversation. And then we have a conversation about another conversation that happened this weekend on Saturday morning that we want to talk about. And then we'll talk about the football game in various aspects. And then, of course, okay. Okay? All right, let's go listen to our interview with Cailey, and we'll be back after this. Steve, it's kind of weird when we have people on this podcast of like, I've heard their voices before, seen their faces before, and now we're actually having a conversation with one of those people. So I'm very excited.
Booker's broadening your horizons.
Yes,
Look at that.
yes, that
More
is
money for the
a
Booker.
good way to say that. Yes, we pay you by the booking fee here. Our guest today is Cailey Thalman. She is a content creator for Penn State's the athletic department. She's also doing some Big Ten Plus stuff, and she's also still a student. And I don't want to belabor the compliments too much, but she appears to be a rising star in this little industry. I'm very excited to have a conversation about how she balances all of this. But I want to start back to your beginnings. You have Penn State in your DNA, is that correct?
Yeah. I kind of grew up with Penn State for sure. My grandfather was the associate athletic director of communications here. He started in 1986 and was here until he retired in 2000, I think it was 2001 or 2002. So I definitely grew up watching Penn State football and being around the idea of Penn State. My dad took me to my first football game. I believe it was 2017. It was the Penn State whiteout against Michigan. So that was my first real experience with Penn State, was that football game. And then I've kind of loved it ever since. So
How does your grandfather look on the fact that you're part of the media now?
yeah.
The enemy, if you will.
It's kind of funny. My grandfather obviously was on the PR side of things. My parents were both in media too. My dad was a DOP, director of photography, for a production company out of DC, and my mom was an executive producer. So they both still freelance, but they're like semi-retired now. So I kind of grew up with the grandfather on the sports side and then parents on the TV side. And that was a reason for a long time why I didn't want to do sports media, to be honest. I was like, no, I've worked way too hard in school to go to school to be a sports journalist. That just seems like a waste of my brain, basically, which sounds horrible now. But I was like, all of my classes in high school were STEM-based classes, pretty much. And the whole time, my parents were kind of like, oh, Cailey, maybe you should try the sports journalism thing. Maybe you should try the on-camera thing. Like, you'd be really good at it. Why don't you give it a try? And I was like, no, like, not my thing. But I always had an aptitude for sports, and I always had a curiosity for sports, and I think that is what eventually led me here. My dad started taking me to hockey games when I was 3, and he was like, you would always just be asking thousands of questions. Like, I would sit next to him the whole time and ask question after question after question, and he was like, I've never seen so much curiosity from you about any other topic, so why not pursue something that you're really curious about and you love doing? And then I eventually gave in and I was like, yeah, you're right. Why would I go to school to do something that I'm actually not interested in? And so now, like, my family loves it. Like, I talk football and whatever else in my family all the time. My grandfather especially, like he's the one that really got my whole family into sports and media as well, and he kind of showed me that like, oh, it is possible to make a career out of this. So he loves it. My whole family loves it now, but for a while I was like, no, this is not the smartest decision I've ever made before I actually made the decision.
Well, they had to be. They had to be, and I think we've had this discussion before. They had to be the only parents in America trying to talk their kid out of a STEM and into communications, right?
Yeah, I know.
Who are your toughest critics? Who, in terms of your work? I mean, how are your parents? Are they, your stuff's out there? Do they offer feedback or commentary, or what's that like?
What's that like? Well, I think my parents would be doing me a significant disservice if they didn't offer their feedback. So, yeah, my parents are both my biggest supporters. I would say I'm my toughest critic, but second to me, it's definitely them. Um, in the best possible way because I'm at an advantage, I think, where they know what they're talking about, right? Like most parents watch this type of stuff and are kind of like, great job, honey. Like, you're doing great, whatever. That's not helpful in this industry, especially because it's such a competitive industry to get into. So yeah, I mean, I'll send my parents watch everything I do, literally everything, and they may not even necessarily know that I'm doing something, and still they find a way to watch it. Like somehow they know what I'm doing without me even telling them necessarily, which I really appreciate. But yeah, like sometimes my dad especially will send me like a whole paragraph back over text of like, okay, these things were great, fix these things. And like down to even my hair and my makeup, which sounds stupid, but it is really important in this industry. And so yeah, they definitely offer really honest feedback and I wouldn't want it any other way. Um, because like I said, this is such a tough industry to get into. So yeah.
When did this start to click, or has this clicked for you of something that you both want to pursue, but you have to feel that you're good at it, which you are, but like you have to feel the self-confidence as well.
Yeah. I kind of have figured out sort of since being here that you can hone your skills on camera, but you do have to have a certain factor where either you have it or you don't. And I think that's a hard thing for people to realize. I hope I have it at this point. I mean, I've dedicated my past 4 years to this, so I hope it works out. But the camera has to like you and you have to like the camera, and that's not something that you can necessarily teach, right? So I think it's partly a personality thing. You have to know what you're talking about, and then more importantly, you have to be able to convey that information in a way that people are going to feel the same things that you're feeling and understand what you're trying to say as well. So at the beginning, like I watch my stuff back from freshman year, like way freshman year, and I'm like, oh, wow, like that's really bad. But what I did know how to do is I knew how to smile on camera and I knew how to smile while I was talking. I had a lot of energy and I knew what I was talking about. So over time, I was able to kind of refine those things, I would say. Um, but yeah, initially off the bat, I wouldn't say it was some professional, but I did realize, okay, like I maybe had the things that are harder to teach people how to do, and I just had to learn how to make those things better versus having to learn those initial skills of like, how do I smile while I talk? How do I have a lot of energy on camera? How do I make the camera like me? Or even just as simple as like learning the sports. Like I ask enough questions when I'm at these sporting events to the SIDs, to the coaches, to whoever I'm watching with, that nobody has to make me want to learn about the sports more than I want to learn about the sports, if that makes sense. So those things I had, and I've kind of grown more confident in that. And then I feel like the past 4 years I've refined that to make it better than initially. But yeah, off the bat, I think I realized I had some things that maybe not everybody has, and that's definitely helped me out. So.
You talked about getting reps early as a freshman. You got opportunities. What was the first big opportunity? Like, what was the first thing you remember doing? Think, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm doing this.
Yeah, so I was on camera for sports night very early on, which I wouldn't necessarily say is a big opportunity, but it did allow me to have something to show people. And so that is what allowed me to get in with athletics, is because I had something to show athletics. So I got in with athletics really, really early on. I was emailing with my boss at the time. I think it was second semester of my freshman year, and then eventually got that opportunity for sophomore year. So that was like my first big break, I guess you would say, as dumb as that sounds. But my, like, when I was like, whoa, this is really cool, was I sidelined my first soccer game for Big Ten Plus. I think it was September of my sophomore year. So very early on in the season, either August or September of sophomore year. And like my parents sent me a picture of me on the TV. And I was like, wait, that's really cool. Like I'm literally on the TV right now. And so that was, and it's live and everything like that. So I would say that was the first time that I was like, wow, like this is legit, you know?
What surprised you about doing something live for a game like that?
I think the fact that it is way less intimidating than it actually initially seems. Like the thought of being live is kind of daunting because it's like, oh, if I mess up, I can't fix it. But at the same time, it's like, if I mess up, I can't fix it. You know, like something happens, move on. And I think that is the part that I've grown to love the most, is it's like, no, you get one shot, do it right, or you can't go back and fix it. And it's way less stressful for me now because it's like, okay, I get one crack at it and then I don't have to think about it again. So that's what I like. That's what I like about being live now. And yeah, there are some things that I want back. Like I'll go back and watch the things back and I'm like, I stumbled over this word or I stumbled over that word. But I think it's a lot more genuine doing something live than it is pre-recorded because you're not overthinking it. You just kind of say it and move on.
What does a week look like for you in the fall? I mean, this week's a slow week. There's no home game, but is it any slower for you, or what will you be doing?
Yeah, this week is definitely slower for me, but I'll give you last week. So go back to, I guess, Monday last week. I go to CCR from 10 to 11:30. Then there was the big press conference where Terry Smith and Pat Kraft talked. Went there to cover that. Edited stuff from that together. Had another class at 4. And then I was a news anchor from 6:30 to 8:30. And then I was producer for Sports Night from 8:30 to 11. And then I got home. So that's Monday. Tuesday, and then it just goes on and on and on. It's like Tuesday, I am working as a producer on this documentary that we're I believe, selling to a major network on the use of public funding for the documentary, or for the stadium in Cleveland that the Cleveland Browns are building. So that day on Tuesday was all researching that and kind of putting my sound bites together for the package that I was doing on Franklin getting fired for CCR. And then Wednesday, I spent the first half of the day continuing to edit that package. And then I covered basketball media day during the day for Roar Plus. And then I went to football practice to keep filming for that package that I was doing. Then Thursday, I spent the whole day editing that package. Then Friday morning, I anchored sports for CCR. And then I went straight to help one of my friends at the women's hockey game. And then right after that, I was sidelining the men's hockey game. Oh, and in all of this, I have to edit 5 elements or whatever that are being produced on the football pregame show. And if that were a home game, I would have been live on the football pregame show on Saturday, along with then during the football game doing stuff for Roar Plus. So, and I'm a student, so I do actually have classes.
CCR is the student newscast. That's a class.
Yeah.
That's credits. How many other credits are there this fall?
I take 15 credits no matter what. Just because I'm spending the money, I might as well get the
money out of
tuition money. So right now, 6 of my credits are CCR. 3 of the credits I'm getting are from that documentary that I'm working on the Cleveland Browns Stadium. 3 of my I'm also in the honors college, so I'm doing my thesis.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. So 3 of my credits I get for as designated time, basically working on my thesis. And then I'm also finishing my minor, so I have to take a digital campaigns class. So that's 15 credits. And I haven't taken below 15 credits since coming here. So, yeah.
When did you figure out how to balance all of that?
I don't know if I've
Okay.
figured that out necessarily. I don't think anyone really does. I prioritize time with my friends when I can, and I think that's really helpful. And also, I'm somebody that likes being busy, so that helps out too. I don't even think of it as necessarily being busy because it's like, okay, I get to spend 4 hours covering a hockey game. Like, I'm not studying for some biology exam or studying for some calculus, this or that. Like, I'm covering a hockey game. Well, what's not to love about that? So, yeah, I'm busy and yeah, it takes a lot of time, but it's stuff that I enjoy doing. So, I'm kind of like more excited about doing those things because of that.
First thing you threw under the bus in the comparison was a biology course. So we've taken the STEM and we've just totally
It's comm major
thrown it
for
under the
you.
bus.
Well, I
Yeah.
know. And the funny thing is that if I wasn't doing this, I probably would have gone to med school. Like that, the route I probably would have gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a comm major for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned we had Seth Engel on a few years ago when he was at the Collegian, and you mentioned being a student and also covering Penn State. Obviously, what is the last like? How do you leverage the feelings that you're getting as a student from other students into your coverage of things like Terry Smith taking over the football program?
What do you mean, like balancing being a fan of the
No,
university with
more
covering
so
the team?
like how do you share the way the student is feeling about that as opposed to maybe a professional beat writer that doesn't have the color or the insights that they're getting from being on campus, feeling the pulse of the campus.
I think that's something that the pregame show especially has looked to me for because there is no other way for people who aren't here to tell that stuff, right? Like, I talk to those people every day, the students who are pissed off about the fact that Penn State football is now 3-4 or whatever else. And it's a different perspective than the people online who are pissed off about the fact that Penn State's 3-4 right now because it's like we only get 4 years of being here as a student, right, to go to these games. And I mean, things happen with football, right? Like, God only knows what's happened with this season, but I understand that frustration. And I think you kind of mentioned it, like the balance of that is sort of difficult because, like, at the same time, because I love sports, right, you understand that things like this happen. There's not necessarily an explanation for why we are 3-4 this season. It happens. That's just how life goes. Like, Florida State won 2 games last year, and they came into the season as I believe, a top 5 team. That stuff just happens. So, I think the best way to combat that balance is just to say that honestly, right? Like, yeah, people who are students here are frustrated with how this is going because of because of how much they love Penn State football, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're frustrated. Maybe the way that they communicate it is a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're frustrated, just shows that they care. But at the same time, like you have to understand that this just happens. Like that's sports, you know? So Penn State can't be 11-1 every single year. Right? We got that last year, you know? Um yeah. So I would say just being honest about it is the best way to handle that.
Sure.
Because we have you, what is the mood of the students? I mean, for people that are listening to us or maybe aren't around the student body, don't have the benefit of being on campus, give us a sense of what that's like. Because I hear you, you get those 4 years, right? We had a 5-6 my junior year, right? And in the early 2000s, it was awful there for a couple seasons. What's that feeling like, and what are people talking or not talking?
Yeah. I would say after Oregon, people were pissed off because it's like when we were down 17-3 in the fourth quarter, everyone had kind of come to terms with the fact that that game was over. And then suddenly it was no longer over, right? So it's like you do everything possible. Defense gets 2 stops or whatever. You throw the 2 touchdown passes. Drew throws this beautiful touchdown pass to Devontae Ross. It's like, wow, where has this been, right? And then you go to overtime and we're all like, oh, please don't give us the ball first. We're going to kick a field goal. They're going to score a touchdown. This game's over. And then we scored a touchdown on the first drive. And it's like, wait, maybe we're going to do this. And then after the interception, everyone was just kind of like, really? Again? Really? So I think the fact that it ended in a touchdown, which is the same way that the Big Ten championship ended, which is the same way that the semifinal ended, it's just kind of like, oh my God, you're pissed off. And then after the UCLA loss, I think pissed off changed to like sad. Like, wow, really? Like, you let one loss turn into two, and now you're just kind of defeated. And then after Northwestern, I kind of think it turned into like, just like, okay, this is how this is going to go. Right. So the worst feeling for me, at least, was after the UCLA loss, because I was just like defeated almost as a fan. Right. And then after Northwestern, I was just like, okay, this is how this is going to go. And actually, the Iowa game honestly gave me a lot of hope for the rest of the season. I thought they played pretty well. I was kind of expecting them to lose by more than one for sure. I didn't know how that game was going to go. I mean, you have a quarterback who's attempted 13 total passes in his entire collegiate career. Like, the fact that we only lost by one to a team that lost to Indiana by 5, I think is pretty impressive given the circumstances. But again, then it's just like, oh, we lose again by 1 point. Dang it. So I would say now people are just kind of have come to terms with it and are just kind of like, okay, this is how the season's going to go. Let's watch hockey instead. So, yeah.
That's your moment to plug Big Ten Plus.
Yeah, exactly.
All your broadcasts there. What you've mentioned a bunch of different sports. You said you've learned a lot of different sports. Is there one sport in particular that you want to go pursue to report on next, or are you just open and willing to any opportunity that comes through the door?
I'm definitely open and willing to any opportunity that comes in the door. I think you kind of have to be going into this industry, and there are a lot of different reasons why I love a lot of different sports. If it were like dream scenario, hands down, I would either go into college football or hockey. I think there's no better sport to watch live than hockey. And I've thought that since I started watching hockey back when I was 3 years old. Like, I think it's the perfect mix of speed and aggression and technique and so many different things. And I think it's so underrated in terms of viewership throughout the US. Like, basketball, baseball, and football trump hockey any day of the week by miles. And I'm like, how? The game's quick and there's always something going on. And then college football, like, is such just an atmosphere thing for me. I love the fact that even though now obviously athletes are getting paid and all of that kind of stuff, like, they're still amateurs. And I think that makes the game just so much more interesting, like, from an upset standpoint. And honestly, if Penn State had just lost those 2 games early on to Oregon and UCLA, based on how the rest of the college football landscape has been going this year, they would absolutely still be in the conversation for playoff spot. And that's what I love about it, right? Like, everyone beats each other all the time.
Yeah.
So it just makes things really interesting. But yeah, so I would say college football or hockey would be my favorite.
So we've talked about you now and your future plans, maybe, hopefully. I'm curious, last question from you. I'm curious about competition. You talked about how difficult it is. Are you competing, and how aware are you of what you're competing for as you're competing now?
Yeah, I think I would be naive to say that I'm not competing, right? Like, there are only so few spots in this industry, and you compete every time you put a piece of work out there, right? Like, anytime anyone sees what you're doing, it's kind of an audition, because that's how people find you. And I would say that's the same thing in the college, but I would say that not for a positive reason. I think especially the women here are very competitive, because it's like you think there are only a certain number of spots, which there are, but instead of treating that as kind of an opportunity to learn from each other, it's more of a like, oh, how do I be better than the person next to me? And that can be kind of frustrating. So yeah, I mean, there's constantly a target on my back. I think at this point I've earned my right, I guess, to be doing what I'm doing now, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people below me who are trying to below me from a grade standpoint, who are trying to take that when I leave and things like that. Um, I can't speak to the actual industry itself because I'm not in it yet, but
Sure.
that's at least how it is here.
Nice.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
All right, Cailey, we have one tough pressing question before you go. What is your go-to creamery ice cream flavor?
Oh my gosh, I haven't had creamery ice cream in a long time. So I don't even know all the fancy names of them. I'm a solid mint chocolate chip person,
I
so
think that's
I don't
cool.
know if there's a fun name for it
I
here,
think
but
that's just
that's
what
what I
it
always
is.
get when I go.
Okay. All
I
right.
think that's the name.
I
And I
do the
think
same.
that puts you in the top quarter of all answers. That might be one of the top answers.
Yeah,
we always get.
mint chocolate chip is
Yeah.
up there. Usually anything slightly chocolate chip related, whether it's cookie dough or that one, comes up. All right,
Yeah.
Cailey, where can people find you, your work, your stuff this football season, this hockey season, the rest of the school year?
Yeah, so any of my games for Big Ten Plus are obviously streamed on Big Ten Plus, and then my own social accounts, my Instagram is just Cailey.Thalman, and there's a lot of my stuff on there. So I would say there, and then any of the athletics accounts as well, Roar Plus or any of the individual athletics accounts as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Steve, I was watching the hockey game and you had texted that we were going to have Cailey on. I was like, oh, that's her. And it was kind of cool to see her in action and in her work. And I think the biggest thing that came across to me when I was watching the hockey game was also just like what came across to me there and her just like energy, her personality. For somebody that wants to do TV, that is the right attitude to have. I really believe that because that makes me more comfortable listening, engaging, understanding what that person is going to say in an interview or doing in the interview when I'm watching the game on TV.
Yeah, my interactions with Cailey and from our discussion, hardworking, prepared, passionate, right? And it's not just surface level. There's depth there. There's preparation. She's smart. She gets it, and she comes at it in a way, having consumed hockey, watching hockey since she was 3, having grown up around sports. And the point about her parents was so good, right? If she didn't have those resources, if she had those resources and didn't take advantage of their feedback, that'd be silly. So good for her, and I think she's doing a great job at what she's doing.
I am once again always impressed when going back to our conversation with her and then Seth, I think last season or 2 seasons ago, just thoroughly impressed at like even compared to when I was a student, how much more is being asked of all of these little kids to do all of these things and how they handle and manage all of that. And I only think that the content every single year kind of gets better and better. And I think that's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, and they come in maybe a little more exposed to certain things, but they're not afraid to ask questions. The good ones are not afraid to ask, how do I do this? Or to partner with somebody else on getting something done. And it's a big place, but if you're somebody who goes out and puts yourself out there and works, people notice you and everybody starts knowing you and you start getting even more opportunities.
Yeah. No, I think that is anytime we have had somebody like that on this podcast, I think that is the biggest takeaway is you see an opportunity, take it, and even if it isn't 100% perfect of what you wanted, it will roll into more and more opportunities. Real quickly, speaking of student media, I want to take a brief detour to Indiana this week and give a shout out to Jim Rodenbush, who is the former Daily Collegian advisor. Just was the advisor for 2 years when I was at Penn State, and just kind of took a stance for student media. And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that here on this podcast because good for him, sticking up for
yes,
what
yeah,
he believes.
right thing to do. I don't know if it's working out right exactly, but it's the
No,
right thing to do.
Yes, and yep, exactly. So shout out to Jim. Okay, let's get to this conversation that we want to talk about, and that, of course, was an 11 o'clock interview that I listened to from the middle of the Potomac River in a kayak. What a weird, just a lot of weird times to be had this football season. That one's up there. That, of course, is the interview that College Game Day did with James Franklin. You watched it, I assume?
Yep.
Okay. Um, I I think where my frustration begins with the interview isn't the questions that were asked, or really maybe necessarily the content. It is the suspension of reality that we have kind of come to and hear a lot, and it felt not too dissimilar from what we were used to seeing in the political world and the political landscape of separating fact from fiction, and not fully giving all the details. Not that I thought James Franklin was going to go into all of the details. Not that I thought we were going to get anything juicy. Not that I thought that particularly the former legendary college football coach that shares the same agent with James Franklin was going to ask any hard-hitting or pressing questions in that situation. But I think it was just like, huh? It was just a lot of like, he's saying this, here was reality, and it was just a weird blend of like, huh, for me. All of that is to say, it was nothing different than what I exactly expected. It was pretty much everything to a T.
Yes, I think it was everything you expected. I think the only part of the process was that he did do it, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a friendly space. And, he didn't go quiet. He didn't go hide for a couple of weeks. He came out and said, "Here's my side of the story," because if he doesn't talk, there's a vacuum there that gets filled by something else.
Correct.
So his side of the story, as all the rough edges were taken off of it that were presented, possible, was at least out there. So I think that was a smart move on his part. He went to the most relevant place to tell it. He didn't go to Big Noon Kickoff, right? He didn't go to the network that hosts his conference's games. He went to ESPN, which this show is the voice of college football. So, and you got all the voices you expected. Everybody takes a turn to throw their softball, right? There was nothing super hard there. There was, as you said, Coach Saban, who shares the agent, and Kirk Herbstreit's agent is also from the same agency, saying, I'm the one who stands behind it. Yes, it was definitely unfair. Okay. I mean, you weren't going to get anything. You weren't getting bulletin board material anywhere. But he did it well, no surprise, and was supported the whole way through by everybody. So for me, the biggest thing was that it happened, right? That it wasn't a vacuum, and they made a big thing out of it. I mean, it was the tease at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
We were on the Potomac. It was the tease at the bottom of the screen early on, coming up at 11 o'clock. It's this. So, I mean, it was the news. It still is the news of college football season.
No.
It is the biggest firing with the biggest payout with all the ramifications. I think along with the questions that you might have wanted to ask and that Penn State fans in terms of, disbelief suspending that, it was the epitome of the disconnect between local and national about what happens there. I mean, it's just people don't have that sense. I texted you that I think the most relevant thing that I heard that Mrs. Saban said more in a positive light about Penn State football without really saying anything about Penn State football. But we heard more from her in that show than we heard from Fumi Franklin in a dozen years. And I think that's part of the disconnect for local fans. Was it was always a show, despite the success from the first news conference on. Like, unless you have that context nationally and share it, you do look from afar and say, what are they thinking? Right?
Oh, yeah.
But so it was good, but it was what you would have scripted. And I think that's why it happened the way it did.
I agree with that. And I think that has been the biggest thing that has come from or out of this. And it's been eye-opening in a lot of ways, like of how we consume more localized stories. I think that has been a big issue really the whole process. You saw all of these people, like, all of these people except for Todd McShay, apparently, all of these people being like, why would Penn State ever fire James Franklin, or Penn State needs to fire James Franklin, and then the second he gets fired, it's the opposite of that. Like it's why, how could they do that? And I think that is why I think honestly, I really do think that the Penn State beat has done a really great job. I think that the ability to set that we just talked about it a little bit with Cailey, right? Like, set the scene has been so important and was so much missing from from why. And I think, we even talked about it a little bit this weekend. It was like, anybody that's feeling second guessing it, like, I think they should go back and remember how they felt after losing to Northwestern and what that experience and really what that whole day was like of how not only it seemed like he lost the locker room, he had lost the fan base. And I don't think there was anything that could have been done to get that back. And that was why, like, it just all felt like such a nail in the coffin. I did think there was a little bit of bulletin board material.
Okay. That he's going to win national championship somewhere?
No.
Okay.
He said about 1:30, the AD walked in.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Like again, we have spent, I don't know how many years now, overanalyzing every damn word that the guy has said on this podcast. And I thought it was an interesting word choice for as buddy as Pat Kraft and him were to say the AD there. I thought he said he was in shock. And that's when I was like, huh? Like, you couldn't see this coming? And I think that was a thing. He said it was hard for me to comprehend at the time. I still want to know who the we was. Like, that's my biggest question in the whole interview. He kept saying things like, we've got to do a better job of tuning out all that noise and be focused on being 1-0 and only the task at hand. And we're going to win a national championship at the highest level. Who is the we? There is no we left.
Maybe he had the other. Maybe he had. That's not right. What we didn't hear. Let me go about what we didn't hear. What we didn't hear was, I understand that I get the question, right? Like that.
It's fair.
You got neither one of those this time.
The noise, though, did come up.
Right. And I think he went third person with we, right? Like, we've just got to do better. I think if he would say, hey, I got to do a better job turning off the noise, there'd be some self-awareness there that would be valuable the next stop. Yes. Because there's no place that's going to be less noisy than this place, I don't think. I mean, no place that's a good job that's going to be less noisy than this place.
Not below or not above the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
Maybe in Ohio.
Right. And I actually kind of, you point out one of the things I haven't written yet, and I don't know that I've said it publicly, I'm kind of looking forward to the first news conference someplace else when he refers to Penn State as the previous institution. Right? Like because that's what's going to happen, right? We made fun of that with Vanderbilt. So Penn State now gets to be the previous institution going forward.
It was funny when the press release came through that he was doing it. I tweeted it out, and Jeff Rushton, statecollege.com, Jeff Rushton, immediately said, I'm so excited to hear him call us the previous institution. And I thought, did he actually, did he say Penn State?
I don't think he did.
He said State College. He did say Penn State a couple times.
I was talking about his daughter going to school.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of deadpan and nice. Daughter going to go to school. That's obviously not the plan now.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of,
I don't know. Credit to him for doing it. I do think you're right there.
It didn't do him any disservice.
It didn't. I do think picking on the community aspect, which I think very valid gripe. Again, don't live in the Center County community. But usually the coach sends a thank you tweet, sends it with a graphic of him, and it's got this long thing written out, and then a signature at the bottom. Sometimes they buy a front page ad or a full page ad in the local newspaper. There's been none of that.
Points.
And I get it. I get the frustration.
But he didn't retire or leave, though. He was shown the door.
Yes, but there's a lot of other coaches that have been shown the door that have said, hey, I appreciate, I know this didn't work out, but I appreciate the time we shared together. If we're looking,
so you saying you think he didn't?
No, I don't think he's going to. And I think he is equally as pissed off at Penn State fans as Penn State fans, for the most part, were at him.
That's probably true.
And not that some of it was not valid. I do think that there was a rational and irrational line, and I do think a minor but very loud vocal minority of the fan base crossed it pretty often for unnecessary reasons. Because what he did do at Penn State, he is tied for the second winningest head coach here. Like, I don't know. I think it's and I think would have liked to have seen something like that.
That's fair. And I think people who somehow believe this is just this year occurrence. Look, we were leaving the Big Ten championship game last December, and there were a couple people asking for him to be fired loudly as they were walking through the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
That just seems kind of silly to me. But there's been an undercurrent for a long time, for good and bad.
No, I think that was important.
Who had the better news conference the past week, him or the AD?
It was funny because I wanted to spend some time. I don't think it was long enough to do an annotated guide like we did to Pat's. I think Pat had a better, because Pat was a little bit more honest and authentic, and I think Franklin was not as authentic. He was still the James that we've all collectively known.
So what was the most authentic thing about Kraft's deal?
Him crying over Drew. I think that was authentic and showed some human emotion. I think there were some other quotes in there about just being, expectations and things like that. And I think he did a better job of being aware of the reality. And I think even like to the point where he was like, this was difficult for me because James Franklin is my friend, which apparently maybe James Franklin doesn't think
not so much
friend
anymore. Sorry, that's not funny.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think either of them like lost per se, but I just do feel like, back to your point of the local versus national thing, the erasure of the narrative, or sorry, the erasure of the facts is not a good.
I agree.
Good tone, I think,
but I
that
also
was
think,
missing. And I understand why at that stage it's not going to be shown too.
Right. And in the same, I understand why it's not going to be shown at Pat's stage either. But at the same time, there was when he starts talking about what they want from a coach and laying out the description, as he's saying, if you give me a blind resume before this season, I'd have been like, okay, James Franklin.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting struggle, because there wasn't a here's the thing kind of moment. I mean, it was lost, and I think people understood that. But at the same time, when you go back and forth and say, we're going to have somebody that does all these things, if there were 10 things there, he was, at least we were told, or he was doing most of them. So,
no, I think that's fair. We talked about that last week too, but I think it's, I was looking into this, and I might look into this a little bit deeper. This is, I mean, obviously this is the two biggest decisions he has ever made as an athletic director. But even at BC and Temple, when he was AD, I think he only ended up hiring 3 coaches, maybe. And it was the guys at Temple, and one of those was Manny Diaz, who left after like 2 days. To take I think it was the Miami job. So I think that was a part of it. I think, what else? There was another thing that I was looking at. Oh, and I was curious. The other one that's really big at BC was hockey, but he didn't hire the guy that replaced Jerry York. That was basically in the summer that he came to that Kraft came to Penn State. And I think either Pat Kraft knows what he wants, or he at that moment didn't have it figured out exactly what he wants, but he kind of, like we talked about last week, threw it in the AI machine and was like, can you give me some bullet points on what not saying he did that, but like it kind of just felt that way. It was that generic.
That's fair.
Let's talk about the football game. I think from my perspective, Terry Smith did what I asked of him, which was that he rallied the troops. How did he rally the troops? With a poem called If, I guess. You want to talk about the If shirts? That was on your list of rundown things.
I just had it there because
Yes, come on. Lay it on me.
Okay, sure. Like, I mean, teams have to have things that motivate them. It's usually disrespect. It's usually they overlooked us. maybe they find a term. I don't know. Maybe it's the disconnect of how good people were saying this season was going to be, and they were told people we've got all this talent, we're doing this back, and now the program is to a point where, oh, if you do this, and if you do this and this, and we're going to be, we'll be respectable. Like we played hard. I mean, that's going back to Cailey early on. This is where we're at. Yeah, this is where the program's at, and I think where some of the fan base are at. You've gone from, where do I need to book tickets for the big bowl game to, well, they're probably not going to a bowl game, and people are just hoping we play respectfully and hard. That's a big difference.
I at least wanted them to show me some effort, and they did show me effort. Like, I think, like, I don't know that there's moral victories in the fact that they still lost that game when they should not have lost that game, but it did feel like they at least, some of the players looked like at least they were trying. Most of the players looked like they were trying. Did the coaching staff help them, put them in a position to help them win that game? No, and I think that just is all getting more magnified as we go on here, and it's only going to get worse, especially over the next 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they have more time to tinker with stuff, right? Try to do different things. This may or may not be the right time to do that, as opposed to honing stuff. I've heard some people say, oh, they find some of the people in the roster, give them a chance, you're not winning. Okay. Perhaps that works on TV movies. Perhaps that works in feel-good moments. But there's a reason these kids are where they are on the depth chart in at least, I would say, at least 75% of the positions. It's not like they've screwed up more than that in identifying their best talent, I would hope. So I think for me, it's just the difference in what was sold, what was expected, and now it's, okay, I'm going to show up, I'm going to play hard, I'm going to play with grit, we're going to represent you well, and yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the words, but you're not that far from moral victory. And boy, that's a big difference.
No, but I think, what do we salvage out of this season? Like
I don't know. Right, and I think that's why you get rid of the coach when you do, right? If you know you're going to make the decision, make the decision.
No.
So,
and that's what I struggled with.
It's a mess. So it's just going to be a mess.
Clean up the mess the best way you can.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought I at least appreciate the crystal clear communication we're getting from Terry Smith. Like, it is, like, there's no beating around the bush here. Like, it's a lot more direct. I think that's, and I think his authenticity, and I think his going back to the community aspect of, like, showing what Penn State is and why he loves Penn State, I think he's done a really good job with that.
That's fair. Are you concerned about,
go ahead.
Rifts isn't the right word, lack of alignment within the coaching staff itself?
That was the one thing I'm, like, just confused on, right? Like to me, Saturday was proof that James Franklin did not meddle in the game plan, which is frustrating because that's what I want James Franklin to do. Like the game plan of giving Katron what felt like 1,000 carries on Saturday night, starting some guys on defense versus not starting some guys on defense. I think that was, but I also think it was clear from the executional situations of putting Jackson Smolik in to some playing Dom DeLuca as much as they did, like on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, that, like, it is Andy Kotelnicki's show. It is Jim Knowles' show. And James Franklin was kind of sort of just there to call timeouts and lead the program through recruiting and all of these other things, more in that GM sense than that we thought he was in. And I think what I am frustrated by is the fact that nobody just kind of wants to smack any of them upside the head and say, hey, like, can we fix this?
Maybe it's not fixable. Maybe it just is.
Maybe that is part of the problem.
Right? This ugly thing that is a culmination of factors and personalities and situations that's just going to be this ugly blemish that you're going to hope can be recovered from in a year or two under some different leadership.
I am very fascinated to see who stays and who goes and how all of that works out. We now have
Well, the only way anybody stays is if Terry Smith gets the job, right?
I could see Terry Smith staying. I could
Staying no matter what. Right. Well, I could see him
Penn
as the
State,
continuity
right?
guy.
Trace those guys, like that level of assistance
Maybe.
staying. I think if they go get an offensive guy, I can understand why you would, with what you pay Jim Knowles, you force that offensive guy to keep him around. I can't see Andy staying. I just can't. I think that this is a bad fit for everyone involved, and I think James Franklin made a bad decision, and I think that's part of why he got fired. He made a bad call on this offensive coordinator because he was going through them. Here's how bizarre the last few weeks have been. They've made me question the reality of the fact that, was the Yurcich era that bad? And I don't know that it was at this point.
Well, and then the other offensive coordinators that got run off or left for other places were ostensibly, at the time, not leaving for other places. They were not being told to leave. They were finding someplace else to go. And some of them are having some success doing other things.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, Ricky Ronnie, glad for him. Yeah. He has bulldog. Dog's cute. Can we talk about the broadcast though before we go to old guy, young guy? Do we have time?
Is there anything nice to say about it?
There is nothing nice to say about the broadcast.
Okay. Go ahead.
What I struggle with is this is NBC's probably their C team, right? Because I think NBC had another game, and then they had the
Notre Dame
the Notre Dame game as well on Saturday. And my God, was the broadcast just I know we knock on we just had Cailey on, and sometimes I tend to knock on Big Ten Plus. I've watched Big Ten Plus broadcasts that were far better than the experience that I had. I think they had a multi-minute technical issue at the beginning of the show, which I get, they happen, but at the same time, like, they were trying to set up what this game meant and talk about all those things, and they just blew it there. I think that was a big miss. I think they missed the start of a lot of plays because they were showing graphics packages and other things that somebody didn't know the timing of a game, like didn't know the flow of a game, and when to bust out this graphic versus not. I think that was big. I thought eventually, like, and they moved away from it, particularly probably about the second quarter, but they were hammering the storyline that I don't think there were that many casual non-Iowa or non-Penn State fans tuning in. That everybody, at least on this side of the country, knows the storyline, doesn't need a rehash of it 7 times that I felt like we got it. I think that was important. And then there was at one point, and this is more a technical thing, they went to, there was a touchdown, commercial, kick, commercial. And at least on my feed, that second commercial did not show me a single commercial. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? If the tech has to be there, and it's there on all these other streaming platforms except for this one apparently, and it's a waste of time.
Yeah, this was a bad infomercial for what bad streaming looks like.
Yes,
it just wasn't done well. And my hope with any broadcast is that you serve viewers, and that is not what happened. Technical stuff aside that maybe you can't control, there was game timing stuff and the storyline stuff. People know. Nobody's watching. Nobody stumbled over this game accidentally. It is Iowa fans and it is Penn State fans, and that is it. And they all know what's going on. So find some other way to tell the story. You've got a quarterback who played for one of the programs. Find some way to do it better or different if you even need to. Perhaps if you're just streaming the game and all these people watching, just try to have a clean presentation. Don't raise the bar other than that. And that's not what happened.
I think that was fair. Like I said, it was a shame for how good NBC has been. The
disconnect there
of
how good the A team is the broadcast and what this is they gave viewers was so stark.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This week's old guy, young guy.
Brought to you by what?
You. It's brought to you by you. Steve, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Steve goes to Nashville every year. He might or may not have a few beverages. And I think he does a great play-by-play job of the trip, and it genuinely makes my day better when not only when Steve just generally texts me, but when Steve puts me into, I think, 4 different group chats, one with the Samsel daughters, and I think that was the highlight of it all, for me at least. Here's what I want to know though, Steve. Are you pro family group chat? Like, is the Samsel family? You hate it. You just.
Any chance I get a chance to silence them, I will. Yes.
Okay. All right. I just
not the daughters, but broader ones. Yes.
Like a cousin. Like as soon as it gets to cousins and aunts and uncles.
Yeah. Daughters and son-in-laws are good because we'll get pictures of kids at daycare. Right. We get that.
Yeah.
Hey, look at these pictures today from daycare. Hey, we did soccer on Sunday. We're hopping over the stuff, learning youth soccer. All the groups, those. But the son-in-laws don't really respond. But the girls will share with everybody. Then the 4 of us, we have a separate one. But beyond that, no, I do not. No, please don't include me. Call me and tell me later what the plans are. Like, there's just nothing there.
I don't think they're productive either. I don't think there's currently one going on, and that I am involved in the part of family one regarding some pictures, and that's going about as well as you could imagine. That planning for pictures. Yeah, no.
Yeah, when it gets broader than just the girls and the son-in-laws, it's just not. I'm not paying attention. And actually, I think my phone knows because after like 2 things, it'll say, "Would you like to silence this?"
Yes,
please. Thank you for asking very much. So yes.
I just want to be clear. The best part of your Nashville trips for me are when
and I'm done. It's not late at night. It's not horrible. It's just sharing stream of thought stuff.
It is. It's what it is. And I thought we had a great time. I had a great time vicariously living through. I deserve some credit for knowing one of the country musicians.
Now that may have been the biggest shock of the trip.
Thank you.
That might have been the biggest shock of the trip. I sent you a picture of Priscilla Block, and I get back, her new song is this, and it's pretty good. And if it wouldn't have been elbow to elbow where we were standing with people when it happened, I might have fallen over.
Well, it's good. Was there a new what was the new best part of Nashville for this trip?
The new best part was the continuing saga of asking the singers their inspiration. So all the bands play only for tips, right? And they take requests, and everybody's asking for every current, recent sing-along, whatever. My go-to request is, hey, can you please play me the song or the band that is the reason you do this? Right?
That's sweet.
And you get these origin stories. What do we get? We got the Beatles this year. We got Taylor Swift. We got something else that was unexpected. And we got a woman who was a trained opera singer, classically trained opera singer, and just realized that's not what she wanted to do. So she slept on her brother's living room floor for 6 months, office floor for 6 months. And then she had enough money to get a bed and sleep in the office in a bed for another 6 months as she's doing this. And she's telling us and the whole bar this story. I think that's really cool.
That's a good question. That's a good,
that's my go-to request for the band. And the reaction is always, wait, what did you ask for? Like, I don't know that song. I'm like, no, your song. The reason you do this, or what's the band? And they're like, oh, that's so sweet. Well, I don't know if I can tell this story. I'm like, who's kind of telling you? Like, let's hear it. Right?
You're not going to remember anyways,
Right. So yeah,
cool.
That was the highlight.
All right. Love that. All right. I don't fully know what's coming this week. I've got some things, trying to work on some things. Hopefully get some answers from people on those. I'll
have something. I don't know what it is.
I will have I don't think we're going to do a survey this year. I think people are going to be too pissed off, and I don't think the survey is going to be. We'll do an end of season survey, maybe after the coach is hired. I don't think we're going to do an in-season one because I think people will be too pissed off. The answer's going to be too negative, and we're not going to get any logical data from that. Not that we're ever getting highly logical.
Good job knowing the room.
But I feel like we should. That being said, I will do my annual bi-week random thoughts. And I think they're going to be extra random this year. Like they'll all be Penn State related. I think there'll be more of them. I just want to have a space for those, though. I think because I think more so than any other year, I have plenty of those. And the great part is we have a website and a podcast where we can discuss all of those random thoughts because that's exactly what we do. You're not sure yet?
I think it's going to be media, kind of a media compilation of things.
Okay.
Maybe not random thoughts, but media. Yes, and a media assessment, and that might be strong.
No,
but something along those lines.
I think, like I said earlier, I think for the most part, Penn State beat has done really well. I think the other thing that we didn't talk about, we can talk about some other time. There are sources everywhere. Like I've not seen the word source this much in Penn State media reporting in quite some time.
True.
I think that was interesting. Okay. Name of our website is called stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With Steve. 5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate all that. Appreciate Cailey joining us. We have emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Perfect. And then lastly, you can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
at Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.